Hello and welcome to the Gamers Table Board Game Design Series. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about defining what your game is. Whenever you have a game idea in your head, eventually you're going to come to the point where you got some parts, and you got some pieces, and you got some boards, and you got some dice, and you got a page full of your handwritten rules, or possibly typed out on the computer if your handwriting is actually terrible. Whatever, you're going to have something, and you're going to want to get people to test it for you. When you're trying to get someone to play test your game, when you're trying to get somebody interested in maybe funding your game, or you're just trying to describe to your friends what your game's about, being able to throw that type out right away. It's a cooperative game. They got a good idea already of sort of how it plays. We're all going to be doing stuff. We're going to get some cards and maybe some tokens and things. We're going to work together to try and get a goal. It's a competitive game. Okay, I'm going to be out to try and get you guys and win the game. It's a one versus many game. Okay, I'm going to run the game and you guys are all going to try and beat me. It's a trick-taking card game. Okay, I'm sort of like teach you, or it's a rummy variant or something like that. Anything that you can do to codify what your game is helpful, because you need to get people interested in playing your game. Obviously, if they don't interested in playing your game, well, really, what's the point? So to get people interested in testing your game, I mean, sometimes they're going to be friends of yours that have played games with you before, so you're just going to bring it out and they're going to join in. This is a good time, as is every step of the board game process, of the design process, to be thinking about your rules document, about what you're going to put into it, about how you're going to arrange that information. And if you arrange that information improperly, you might as well throw your game away. Now, it seems really simple, but a lot of times when somebody asks, well, what's your game about? Well, it's about hunting dinosaurs. Well, you gear up, you get stuff, and then and then you go to the map and you wander around, you hunt dinosaurs, and then you roll some dice, and that's not what people want to hear. What you're doing here is getting something that is going to turn into the core of your rulebook. It's going to be the introduction and the overview. Now, they are two very different things. The introduction is a paragraph or two, not 12 paragraphs. No, relax, dude. I know you're trying to tell a story, but a paragraph or two at most, just enough to whet my appetite. I don't need a novel right there. You can put lots of sidebars with more text and tell your story throughout the manual, but not all in the first page, because we want to play the game. And you don't want them to skip it altogether, because if your game is heavy on theme, they need to know some of this information. So a paragraph or two, the introduction can all be flavor text. It's all setting up the story that the players are going to have to immerse themselves in to play the game. Now, again, if you're doing something like making a chess variant or something like that, or a new version of a card game, you might not have a theme at all, and you can skip the introduction altogether. Now, next is the overview. The overview, which we often read on the show to explain how to play a game, should be 2 or 3 sentences maximum. And they tell you how to play the game. Not step by step all the rules. Now, it seems kind of simple, but a lot of times it's not so much, because you need to capture the essence of what your game is and convey that to somebody in a way that's going to make them want to play the game. For example, for Dino Hunter, the overview is similar to: you collect your gear in the present, while when the timer counts down, you are transported to the past, and the timer resets, and you have a certain amount of time to capture as many dinosaurs as possible and bring them back to the present. You'll be rolling dice to combat and search for fossils and stuff like that. You see, that sort of thing tells them how to play the game, but not how to play the game, if you understand what I mean. It gives them, like it's called, an overview of the gameplay. So they read that, and okay, that sounds like it might be fun. And that's the goal. You want these first two paragraphs, first two sections, the introduction and the overview. People should read that and want to play the game. What you need to decide first is what kind of game you're designing. I mean, this obviously, it goes without saying a lot of times, but when somebody who doesn't know much about games or doesn't know anything about your game asks you, it's really good to have this information to be able to lay on them. So there are a lot of different types of games, and there are some types that have subtypes, but let's look at some of the basics ones. There's the competitive game, where everybody is competing. Everybody wants to be the one who wins the game. Then there are cooperative games, where everybody is working together against the game engine itself. Now then there's sort of a sub between those two, semi-cooperative games, and that is most typified by Battlestar Galactica, where you start out, everybody's working together, but at some point through the game, somebody's going to turn traitor and not be working with you anymore. We were cooperative, but now we're not quite as cooperative as we were before. There are one versus many games, where one person is controlling the game and everybody else is trying to beat that person. Then we get to the second part of it. How many players for your game? Cooperative games should be playable one player because it's a cooperative game. Everybody's playing together, so it should be doable by one player. It might be really hard for one player. It might be something that probably isn't winnable most of the time by one player, but one player could play it. It's part of your design process. You probably already know it, but it's good to have it down on paper. The next thing you really need to know is how long does it take to play your game? And try and get accurate. We've had some games come across our table, and it says on the package it takes about 45 minutes, and we've played the game, and that only took 20 minutes. There's no way this would take 45 minutes. Or conversely, it says 45 minutes. That game took 2 hours, and we were playing it fast. There's no way this game takes 45 minutes. So test your game. Try and remember to set a timer at the start and at the end, and see how long it actually takes people to play it. Do this with people who have played the game for the first time, and do that with people who've played the game several times, so you can get some sort of an average idea of how long it takes to play a game. All that information that's going to go on the box, it's going to go in your manual, is really good to have when you start thinking about the design. When you start thinking about your game, do you want to make a game that's going to take 4 or 5 hours to play? Sort of like Twilight Imperium, or how Arkham Horror can be really long, or Defenders of the Realm, anything like that. That can be a long game. Android, that can be a long game. Or do you want to make something that's short? You know, a quick game, fast, light, there's not a lot to it, it's going to be a lot of fun. How much player interaction do you want? Do you want people to have to be stealing cards and items and equipment and things from each other all the time? Or do you want everybody to play their sort of own little thing, and at the end it's just like, I reveal, haha, I've got 40 points, you've got 32 points, I win. So the Dino Hunter examples. It is a cooperative game. So that right away sets the type of game. You know, when you say cooperative game, everybody knows what that means. Okay, we're going to all work together towards a common goal. Well, if I don't like that, I'm not going to pick that game up. If I do like that, I'm going to be interested in hearing more. It is for 1 to 6 players. Okay, so if I really am into dinosaurs and this might be a cool game, I could get it, and even if nobody will play it with me, I can play it by myself and enjoy it. That's a good thing to know, and that's a good thing to test. If you say 1 to 6 players, test the game with 1 player. Does it really work with 1 player? And does it work with 6 players? You need to test everything in that range. And the big thing when you're playtesting a game is you need to watch what the players are doing. It's better not to play yourself, just to watch what everybody's doing. See if people are not engaged in the game. If people are talking amongst themselves and sort of not paying attention to what's going on while other people are doing things, you need to figure out how to engage your players. And that particular example in Dino Hunter, the options are you could be going after a dinosaur, or you could be hunting for plant or mineral samples. Well, the plant or mineral samples were just you went there and picked up a card. But the dinosaurs, they got to roll dice, and you roll for the dinosaurs, and there's combat, and there's damage going back and forth, and you're using your weapons and stuff and trying to capture them. You only get 3 rounds of that. So it's not you beat a dinosaur. You got 3 rounds of dinosaur, and then it moves on. So we don't have anyone for too long because we want to keep the pace going and also make it more difficult for them to capture a lot of dinosaurs. It shouldn't be easy. Dinosaurs are big. You can't just go, gotcha, with one, tranquilizer dart. Well, okay, now it fell down. What am I going to do? I got to get it back to the truck. Oops. So what I did was I changed that. So now the people who are looking for samples check their search score and they roll against that. And every time they fail the roll, it's a bigger chance that a dinosaur is going to jump out of the bushes and attack them. So it makes it more tense. I didn't make it. Okay, I'll search again. Yeah, I'll try again. Oh, I didn't make it, but there's no dinosaur. Okay, now this time, if you don't make it on this search, a dinosaur is going to discover you. You are going to be surprised by a carnivore or a herbivore, and yeah, it's going to come out and jump at you. You're going to take that third roll. Now, the people who are looking for samples have become engaged in the game, because now it's tense for them too, not just for the people who are combating the dinosaurs. In Dino Hunter, we go in 2 stages. In the first part of the game, everybody is getting equipment. There's a set of, as you saw last week, there's a set of PDAs, smartphones, whatever, on there, and they get different cards put on them, and the different players choose to put their piece on one of those phones and pick up those cards. Basically, they're in the theme of the game, they're getting calls from suppliers saying, hey, I've got this for you, come and check it out. And they get a chance to keep that or not. They can go to the place where they can do a little temporal manipulation and look at the time in the past, because there are event cards down one side, and they can flip one of those over and say, okay, during the time in the past, there is going to be a stampede. We got to be ready for that. But you didn't collect any equipment when you did that. You did that instead. So there's all sorts of things. There's a trade-off. And if you saw down the timer list, the more players you have, the less time you have before you're going to go to the second stage of the game. Because with 6 players, you're grabbing almost everything that's available every turn. So you're going to really have a lot of equipment. So you want the players to have less turns, because you want them to not have so much equipment that the game is going to be too easy. This comes into balance, which is another thing you really need to think about when you're creating the mechanics for your game. Now, in the second part of the game, we lay out the 9 cards that make up the map. And this is of a deck of 18 cards, which means the map can be radically different every time we play. And we flip over one card and we go to the past, and then we reset the timer. And now it's going to tick down again, and we only have so much time to find and capture the big dinosaur that is our main goal. And if we've chosen one of the other difficulty cards, get as many of the other things, get as many of the other dinosaurs, collect samples of plants and samples of minerals, and do all that, and get back to our embarking point and back to the present, and not leave anybody behind in that many turns. Now, we played through this quite a few times, play tested it a lot, and in the last game, where it got to be the point where the mechanics are pretty much done now, it got to be where it is really tense. It was down to the wire. People were racing, tripping in the mud, and racing and trying to get back to the point in time to bring the dinosaurs there, to get back to the present and not miss it and get stranded in the past. And everybody made it on the last move of the last turn. It was an exciting game. Everybody was engaged in the game the whole time. That's what you're looking for. That's what you need to play test over and over again. That sounds kind of interesting. Well, that's it for this episode of the Gamers Table Game Design. Tune in next time, whenever that will be, and I'll talk about board game design some more, because why not?